Everyone is whispering about my choices, but they don't know you planted the storm inside me. They say I lost control, but it wasn't me. It was the way you consumed my every thought. People judge what they can't understand, forgetting you rewired my heart to act without warning. I didn't just act. I was pushed by the gravity of everything you made me feel. Everyone's gossiping, but they never saw the fire you lit inside me before I burned it all down. They call it madness, but it was love twisted into desperation that made me do this. Everyone's talking like I'm alone in this, but you were the echo that guided my hands. They point fingers, but they don't know you reshaped the person I thought I was. I hear the whispers, the sideways glances, but they don't know it all started with you. People are calling it reckless, but they don't understand the depth of the chaos you inspired. You made me cross lines I never thought I would, and now everyone talks as if it's my fault. The world is judging my actions, blind to the storm you orchestrated in my heart. They say I lost my mind, but your presence was the spark, and I only followed the flame. Everyone's talking about what I did, never realizing the weight of your shadow that led me there. They call it betrayal, but they ignore how you pushed me to the edge of my own soul. The whispers are deafening, yet none ask why your influence demanded my reaction. Everyone judges what I became, but none saw the way you rewrote my instincts silently. People say I acted irrationally, but your fingerprints are all over my choices. They gossip, but they don't know the truth, that every step I took, you were behind it. I hear the murmurs, but they're blind to the storm you unleashed in me. Everyone is talking, yet they fail to see the strings you pulled so effortlessly. They call me reckless, but they forget how you sculpted my decisions in secrecy. People whisper as if I'm the architect of this chaos, but you were the blueprint. Everyone's talking about me like I was free, but I was enslaved to everything you made me feel. They blame my hands, my choices, but every heartbeat that led here came from you. People whisper your name in shadows, yet accuse me in the light. Everyone's talking about how I lost control, but they never saw the subtle ways you made me break. They think I acted alone, but your presence was the force behind every step. Everyone's gossiping, yet they ignore the invisible chains you draped over my will. They say I acted out of character, but your influence carved this path before I even knew. Everyone's talking about how I reacted, but none remember how you provoked the storm. People judge my choices like they're mine alone, but you shaped every one of them. Everyone whispers as if my actions are reckless. But they were the inevitable response to you. They point fingers, but they can't see the subtle ways you guided my hands. Everyone talks like I am the villain, but they don't know you were the reason I became one. People judge me with shallow eyes, blind to the depth of what you made me feel. Everyone's talking as if I acted freely, but your influence was the silent chain around my heart. They see the result, but ignore the catalyst. You, the architect of my decisions. Everyone's gossiping, yet they fail to understand how thoroughly you unmade me. They say I was reckless, but they don't know the quiet ways you controlled the storm inside. Everyone talks about my choices like they sprung from nothing, but they were born of you. People whisper in judgment, but you were the whisper that pushed me over the edge. Everyone's talking, yet they're blind to the way your presence dictated my every move. They judge my actions as if I'm free, but I was a puppet, and you held the strings. Everyone's gossiping, but no one asks what it felt like to be driven by you. They say I lost control, but it was your subtle push that broke my restraint. Everyone's talking about what I did, but it's really what you made me feel that mattered. People gossip like I acted alone, but the truth is, you were the reason I moved. Everyone talks as if I chose this path, but you drew the map before I realized it. They point fingers, blind to the invisible force you became in my life. Everyone's whispering about me, but they never see the gravity you held over my heart. People say I overreacted, but they don't see how you manipulated the chaos inside me. Everyone's talking like I'm guilty, but they don't know you lit the fuse that made me explode. They call it irrational, but your silent influence was louder than reason. Everyone whispers about my choices, but they never ask what you made me feel. People judge my actions, blind to the storm you stoked within me. Everyone's talking about how I lost it, but they forget the catalyst was always you. They see my actions, not the subtle ways you reshaped my will. Everyone's talking about my choices, yet they can't see how you haunted every thought I had. They say I acted recklessly, but it was the silent pressure of you that broke me. People whisper like I had control, but you were the force guiding my every step. Everyone's gossiping, blind to how deeply your presence manipulated my heart and my hands. They judge the outcome, but they never ask what it felt like to be pushed by you. Everyone's talking as if I'm free, but I was tethered to the chaos you created. People say I'm guilty, but they ignore the weight of the world you placed on my chest. Everyone's whispering about my decisions, but your influence was the hand that wrote them. They point fingers at me, blind to the invisible storm you left in my path. Everyone's talking, yet none see how effortlessly you steered me into this fire. People think I lost control, but your presence was the wind that fanned the flames. Everyone whispers as if I chose this. But you planted the seeds long before I acted. They call my actions insane, but your shadow was the architect behind every choice I made. Everyone's gossiping, blind to the subtle ways you rewrote my instincts. They blame my hands, my heart, my mind, but forget the silent push you gave me. Everyone's talking about what I did, but the truth is, I only moved because of you. People judge me for falling, but they don't see how you pushed me off the cliff. Everyone whispers about my choices, never realizing how deeply you infiltrated my soul. They call it impulsive, but it was your influence that guided my every move. Everyone's talking as if I acted alone, but your fingerprints are all over this story. People gossip, blind to the quiet storm you orchestrated inside of me. Everyone points at me, forgetting that you were the invisible force behind my actions. They say I went too far, but your presence carved the path I had to follow. Everyone's whispering like I'm free, but you were the weight that directed every step. People blame my heart, but it was your subtle pressure that made it break this way. Everyone talks about how I reacted, but your influence was the spark before the fire. They judge my choices, yet they cannot see the strings you tied around my will. Everyone's gossiping as if I acted alone, but your shadow was always behind me. People whisper about my decisions, blind to the quiet coercion of your presence. Everyone says I lost control, but the truth is, you guided my hands without a word. They talk about me like I'm reckless, but they ignore the careful way you pushed me here. Everyone's talking, yet they never see the invisible chains you draped around my thoughts. People point fingers, blind to the silent force that compelled me, your influence. Everyone whispers like I'm free, but you orchestrated every move before I knew it. They say I acted out of character, but your shadow shaped every step I took. Everyone's gossiping about my choices, but they ignore the way you quietly dictated them. People call it irrational, but your subtle hand made it inevitable. Everyone whispers about me, but they never asked what it felt like to be driven by you. They judge my actions, blind to the storm that began with your presence. Everyone talks about how I lost it, but they forget the catalyst was always you. People whisper like I am to blame, but you planted the seeds that grew into this chaos. Everyone's talking, yet none see how your presence quietly demanded my reaction. They say I went too far, but your invisible influence paved every step of the way. Everyone whispers about my choices, yet your shadow is the true author of this story. People judge my actions, blind to the subtle ways you controlled my heart. Everyone's gossiping like I acted freely, but I was dancing to the rhythm you set. They call it reckless, but every heartbeat, every choice was orchestrated by you. Everyone's talking about me, but none ask what it was like to be led by your shadow. People whisper, blind to the fire you sparked that consumed everything I once held. Everyone says I lost control, but the truth is you held it the whole time. They point fingers at me, but your quiet manipulation left me no choice. Everyone's talking like I acted alone, but your influence was the unseen hand guiding me. People judge my steps, yet they ignore the invisible weight you pressed upon my soul. Everyone whispers about how I broke, but they cannot see the way you pushed me there. They say I went too far, but your shadow was always the one leading me. Everyone's gossiping, blind to the subtle force that orchestrated every choice I made. People blame me, but your presence was the whisper behind every decision. Everyone talks as if I acted freely, but you molded every heartbeat, every thought, every move. They judge my actions, yet they cannot see the quiet storm that began with you. Everyone's whispering like I'm the villain, but the truth is, I was shaped by your influence.